if we all show our faces for the world? Because that is, I mean, our identity is something that is very, very important for all of us, right? So when people know us without seeing us, I think we don't exist, right? I think existing in this world, it's so important because losing our identity. I mean, people were not enough. Now we also have an intrusion of AI, right? Which is taking away our existence itself. It's not just our voice, our own identity can be duplicated and taken over. So thank you, Gayatri, for acknowledging, and thank you, Sharmila ma'am, and thank you, Janita, for you know obliging. Okay. So now, having said that, so today's topic is stress itself. And I'm amazed and surprised. Stress has become a layman term, even in a child's name these days, right? So they, irrespective. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, stress would be heard from people who have more responsibilities to deal in their life after they're married, or they've started getting into the workforce, or they become a parents, or they become a grandparents, or they become a in-laws, or have more higher responsibilities. But today, stress has become part of everybody's life, right? You name a 5-year-old kid, they go through stress because of the expectation from the outside world, whether it's their family pressure or academic pressure, or the traffic that they have to deal with on a daily basis, right? Because everything is a part of life, right? And the peer pressure that they have, I think, I remember we used to experience peer pressure when we are hitting our teens or early adolescent. But then now the peer pressure starts once they expose themselves to the social world, right? And the other part, why we are constantly going through stress is we are also competing with the whole world here. World is becoming smaller, right? See, in the olden days, our peers were only 3, 4 people that we knew. Agree? Disagree? Feel free to disagree. I love people who disagree with me, because that gives me an opportunity to learn more, right? So now our world has become so small that we don't even know where my competition is existing. But then we are all supposed to deal with it, whether you like it or you dislike it. So what really is happening is that peer pressure has become a big umbrella or a spectrum by itself, right? So dealing with that needs more resilience in us. And then we human beings are not wired to adapt so quickly, right? So just tell me, just take an example. We all are used to wake up at, let's say, 7 o'clock. So from tomorrow I tell you, no, 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 you have to get up at 5 because it's good for your health. How many of us really make it? Do we really make it? I don't think so, because human brain is not wired to do that way. So now when the world was only 4, 5 people that I would physically meet on a daily basis is expanded or become a huge spectrum by itself. So don't you think we all need more time to adapt and understand and value our own self and respect other people also in adapting it, right? But then what is really happening is that world is growing at a faster rate, but then my adaptability or my survival rate is depreciating because of difficulty in adapting for all of us, right? So I think stress has become, I think, Janita, there's a question from your end.
No, I think it's Shashikala.
Okay. So now, having understood that, so now there's no alternative. So now we cannot say that, oh, I will live in a world where there's no social media, or I won't expose to people, or I won't take responsibility. It doesn't really work with us, right? Yes? Is there anybody who is willing to do it? I think even we wish to do it, it's very hard to find such an isolated place itself, right? So what happens? So now I would start this session with this simple question. Can you all see my slide? Yeah? Yes. Now let's talk about stress itself. So my question to each one of you is stress good or bad? Anybody can unmute yourself and answer. Yes, Gayatri, go ahead.
Stress is good at times and good bad at times. You cannot actually categorize stress as good or bad. As per the situation or the consequences of the whatever we have earlier, depends on that whether stress is good or bad. So we cannot categorize it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Gayatri, for sharing that. Anybody else wants to add anything? Because there's no right or wrong answer here, right? So what, according
I want to add here, Rashmi. I feel like I have to be stressed all the time because otherwise I will feel not utilized my time properly. So I am getting into multiple things now. That is one thing which I don't know whether one day I'll collapse, but I am very stressful all the time.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody else wants to add here?
Yeah, I want to add because stress is a good, it can also be good, it can also be bad. It depends on who is taking the stress. And if we are able to take the stress and able to manage it, I think, seeing our own strengths and weaknesses, like students have to take a little stress to, perform well. Otherwise, they cannot push themselves. So it is some level of managed stress is good for all of us to perform well. But when the stress becomes like an overload of stress or something, then and if we don't know how to manage it, then it could lead to anxiety, it could lead to even depression, saying that everything is hopeless. So hope.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Big round of applause to Shamila madam for that. Okay. More than stress itself, okay, Abhishek says more than stress itself, I believe it's the reaction to it that makes or breaks us. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your wonderful participation because that's what is going to make it exciting for all of us. So now, I think before I say anything from my end, I have learned hard way that before addressing the problem or before answering the question, it's good to understand the question appropriately, right? Yes, you're all right, you're all perfect. However, understanding the stress itself is very much needed to figure out whether stress is good or bad. Yes or no? So here, when the question is understood completely or when the concept is understood completely, I think the better solutions or strategies can be brought out within ourselves, right? From ourselves itself. So I think each one of you are right, and big round of applause to each one of you for your wonderful participation. So now my focus is going to be on understanding stress itself. Because there's a saying, if you know the problem well, 50% of the solution is already discovered. Agree? Yeah? Fantastic. So are you going to be with me? Through understanding this. So stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. Right? So what is stress? Stress is a body's reaction. It is very normal because we all react, right? So it is very much required when we have to go through an adjustment or a response. As I was telling you, a few minutes back, if I am demanded to wake up at 5 a.m., which is against my regular routine of 7 a.m., then what happens? I need to adjust to the situation, right? So then what happens? There is going to be stress for all of us, right? Which is our bodies. So who is affected by stress? I'm sure everyone, right? I think you all agree on that. And some gets affected more than others when there's a stress in us, right? So it is not just because there is a stress, everybody is not going to be impacted in the same way. As Suja rightly mentioned, that we all going to have different managing skills, right? So that is why it affects differently. And some also cope better and some cannot, right? So it is not the stress itself, it is, as Sharmila madam said, it is how each one of us learn to adapt and adjust to the situation is only going to give more power to the stress itself. Agree? Agree? Disagree? Yeah. So what are the types of stress that we all have? We all have acute stress and chronic stress. So why it is acute, why it is chronic, let's understand that. So, and before I understand, so what is acute stress? When it is a short lived, right? So, let's say I am going to, log into work or a meeting at such a time. Let's say 10 o'clock, I'm supposed to log into a meeting. Even you don't have to drive all the way to be in the office because of the hybrid model now. You just have to click on the button. Still, what really happens sometimes? I might get delayed, there can be internet problem, there can be a system crashing, anything can happen. Then what happens? So till that time I handle that specific event, I am going through stress. So it is very, very short lived. So once I log into meeting, whether it is 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early, I am done with it. Do you all see this? I think in the morning rush hour, your kids has to go, your husband has to leave, you also have to leave. I'm sure we all have a crash landing in the morning times because it's only living for that moment. So that is acute stress. When it is called chronic stress, when the stressor itself is gone, but then still I continue to feel stressful. Like, we say, okay, so now whole family, everybody is left. I'm just left with myself and my work, but then I still feel anxiety or anxious that, oh, so many things needs to be done. So then what happens? It's a continuation of the stress, irrespective of the stressor being there or not being there. Okay, are you all here with me? Yeah, good. So that is a long term. So based on the time duration. So how does this stress impacts us all? Very important to know, right? See, if we don't know what is it creating, then we all will be very, what do you say, disrespectful or less committed to management, right? So when it doesn't, we don't know what it can impact on us, he doesn't want to take care of it, right? Let's say if your supporting staff is not coming for 1 or 2 days, you'll just leave it because 1 or 2 days nothing is going to change, right? So when that becomes often, then what we do? It is impacting me, right? Then I start giving more priority to it. So understanding the impact of stress is also going to get more attention and awareness from us to learn to manage it or learn to adapt to it. So how does it impact? It impacts you emotionally. Okay, it causes behavioral changes and it also causes psychological changes, physiological changes, right? So I will go in detail to each one of these changes so you will start relating. You may or may not relate, or you also see many people around you relating to this, right? So what are the emotional changes that happen? There is a fear and anger. You see some of them always angry, yeah, or without you knowing, you're getting angry. Possible, right? So then there's a sadness. Suddenly, down. So then you start feeling sad. Then there's a constant frustration. How much ever I do, I'm still the same. Frustration kicks in. Yes. Then just go by the duration a person goes through stress, right? So initially you start with fear and anger, then you switch to sadness, then you get into frustration, then you reach a depressive state. How much ever I do, nothing is happening in life. My life is stuck. Okay, so that's an emotional change. So how do you see that? Because emotional changes only the person will be able to notice, right? Until unless it is vocalized. Otherwise, how you can identify a person who is going through a stresses? There will be a behavioral changes. So how does behavior happens? It will be seen by people around us, right? So there is an irritability, tearfulness, and withdrawn or aggressive. Suddenly, they withdraw themselves and become very mute. Or they become aggressive. They throw it around people around them, right? Or they become very inflexible. They become very rigid. You request them to do something, they'll say, no, this is me, I'm just doing with this. Have you seen such? I think it's more visible in children. Of course, many times we adults also act worse than children, right? So all respect to our stress, right? So then you also see constantly people getting addicted to smoking, alcohol, drugs. I would like to also add digital media or web series, which is the most happening thing these days, right? So when you constantly see someone getting addicted to this, you know there's an underlying stress which is left unaddressed. Very, very important. It's not that stress itself is wrong, but then it is left unattended or not given attention or not thoughtful of dealing with it, right? So these are the behavioral changes. So what is physiological changes that happens in your body, right? So what are the physiological changes? You constantly experience this, very common, right? Headaches, yeah. And what we do, rather than understanding what is the stress that is triggering it, we end up popping a pill and dealing with our headache, right? But then once 8 hours or 6 hours, which is specific to the medication, goes off, then our headache comes back. Or we might also get a window period of 1 or 2 days because we have slept well after taking a pill. Agree? Yeah. So then there's a constant problem with the nausea and indigestion. You constantly or continuously are experiencing indigestion, like bloating of stomach, or stomach upset, or you constantly feel nauseated, right? And this is something that I have been constantly dealing with in my medical, my work field in the psychology is aches and pains. You know, they would have had a bundle of medical reports, all the assessment, diagnostics, everything is done, but then they're not able to identify why they have aches and pains in their body, right? Sometimes it's generalized, sometimes it's localized. That is generalized means people may experience all over the body, or some may experience very specific to their joints. But then when they get an MRI or they get an X-ray done, there's nothing that can be identified as the reason of their aches and pains, right? So that is also something. And sleeping disorder, I mean, very, very common. Of course, we cannot ignore the impact of digital media here when it comes to sleep disorders, because poor sleep hygiene is one of that. But then why people cling on to something like that is also because they've not addressed the stressor that they have to deal with. Are you all with me so far? And eating disorders, more common, right? Obesity is, I mean, we were called the third or developing countries of the world, but then now you looking at the eating disorder and the amount of diabetes and obesity is so common even in the children, right? So that is also related to stress, right? Are you all with me so far? Now, do you think we all need to address and understand stress? Yeah, because it is not spared anyone. I think I'll not be surprised if in a couple of more years we will also start dealing with a newborn child, right, who has to address this stress. I have eating disorder. I think I'm eating all the time. Yes, I understand, Sujata. We all have at certain point in our life, right? Okay. Now, as these are the things that we
Hey,
all
hi.
experience. But then, see, these are the things that happens when a person is going through stress. But then that person is still not addressed their stress. So then it is switched to chronic stress, where
Hi,
people
Smita.
experience irritable
Hello.
bowel syndrome. Have you
Smita,
heard?
you
It
have to
is a
join this
medical
link which
condition.
is
It is
given in
no
the
longer, where you just do lifestyle
link na
modification. You
in the chat.
certainly
Please join
need,
through that.
medical attention. You need to go through a specialist and then get treated it. Okay. And then you end up having diagnosable mental health problems, like depression, which is at a much severe rate, right? It's not no longer mild. Then you will have to start on a medication to take care of your mental health problem. Then a person may also experience cardiovascular diseases. Okay. So when there's a long standing stress in a person's life,
Is it anything to do with the video audio? I'm not able to hear you.
I can hear you. I think it's at the doctor's end.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rashmi, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Rashmi's network is having some problem. I hope she.
Okay, sorry about
We
that.
lost you there for some time.
Yeah, yeah. So that can also be a reason why we all get stressed, right? So when suddenly you're in the middle of the meeting and everything else around you doesn't support you, right?
Yeah.
Now,
We,
none of us can escape that. So, so that's the reason. What we have to understand is that, you know, we have to learn to deal with it, right? As Sharmila madam rightly said, like, we all have to deal with it, learn to deal with it. So how do you tackle the stresses? Find the problem. Very, very important, because we all have certain situations where we constantly get triggered, right? So then find the problem, identify underlying causes for that problem. Like now, I might have to have 3 4 internet connections so that I can switch depending on the how they perform, right? So that is
right.
how I will address the underlying causes for it. Now plan practical solutions, right? So now, even though I wish to have 4 5 connection, it's not practical solution because it doesn't sustain my financial existence, right? So then what happens, I cannot just imagine something to address the cause. Good. So now I what I did understand is that yes, I have 2 connections, so I immediately shuffle to the other one so that it's sustainable. Okay. So then what happens? Small steps and commitment. So I take a small steps towards that. So maybe when I start doing it, I wouldn't understand what is the underlying cause, so I would still try to manage with one network. So then I understand, okay, it is no longer working, so I switch to something which is more accommodating and practical for me to manage my stress. So then what happens, it didn't happen overnight. Me having 2 connection didn't happen overnight. It took me some years of work and some sensible thought process to figure out a solution for it. So that's how we all learn to tackle our stress. And then, if it is not under my control, if I'm not still able to tackle my stress, then it is always very, very important that we have a professional help. We ask for help, right? See, I am not good at everything. I'm not good in everything, right? So, and it's not supposed to be so. If I'm expecting myself to be good in everything, then I will not be good at anything, because I will be busy managing my stress itself rather than addressing or tackling it. So, seek professional help. When it comes to stress, seek help from the mental health professionals who can give you strategies, who can also handle you, who can also help you and guide you and coach you to deal with your stress itself. So now, how do you manage it? Build meaningful relationship, accept imperfections, and be you. Because when I had to exit this webinar, which is very important for all of us, right? So then I accept that yes, I am not perfect and things can always go wrong, right? So accept that and be you. Acknowledge, yes, I'm sorry that happened. Can anybody sue us for it? Yes, there can be events. But then how many of them are really to that level, right? So it's very important that you have a human relationship. I mean, there's a joke around, you have 3,000 followers in Facebook, or you have 3,000 friends in Facebook, but then when you die, nobody appears. So that is where you're all investing time, effort, and energy. So it's very important that you have meaningful relationship. It's okay if you know only few people, 5 people is good enough. But then are they there when you really need them? is what is needs to be understood. And finding work life balance is very, very important so that we manage our stress. And attitude of gratitude is something that we all have to practice, because when I am being grateful for what I have, I think then I will be happier with what I have, and I can also attract better things in my life. And then spend time in nature and with yourself, because I think the biggest key that is missing in all our life is spending time with our own self. We're all so lost or so distracted, or there are so many distractions available in all of our life that we forget that I am supposed to spend time with myself. Because so we are so busy complaining that that person is not spending time, this person is not giving me attention, this person is not validating my effort. Yeah, and the list can go on for the whole time that I've been given here. Right? So it's very important that we understand this. So now, having understood all of this, there are certain triggers that we all constantly and repeatedly experience in our life. Right? Like, if you're a parent, then early morning sending your kids to school. Yeah, so those are some of the triggers. And if you're a working professional, I'm sure reaching to workplace at the right time regularly is something that can be a problem as well. So now, how do we deal with these triggers, right? So there are certain things which are in my control, and there are certain things which are not under my control. I think making this list diligently is really going to help all of us stay calm. Because see, when I focus on things which are in my control, then I'm going to be able to lead a stress-free, holistic, happy life. But then when I focus on things which are not under my control, then I'm going to give myself a permission to suffer by paying a huge price for stress itself. Right? So here are a few of the examples for you to make this list. So the more I focus on the things that are under my control, there's going to be easier for me to manage it. Right? The more I invest my time, effort, energy into managing everything else around me which is not under my control, I'm going to be constantly getting triggered. Right? So let's say my thoughts and my actions are under my control. So I can work on them, I can get coached, I can get trained, or I can get professional help to manage them. What I give my energy to, right? So if there is there's someone talking bad about me, or backbitching me, or criticizing me, it depends on me how much energy I want to invest on that, rather than blaming or pointing out that person, saying that you are talking negatively about me. Right? So my power is in managing myself and making my choice how much energy I give to them, rather than trying to shut their mouth, which is never going to be giving me peace, nor it is also going to address my stress. And then the goals I set, right? So when you are setting your goal, be realistic and acknowledge your own limitations. Because when I set a goal that I'm going to be always having a beautiful or a high power bandwidth of network in an Indian setup is a goal that I'm trying to set for myself for renewing my life, right? Because it's not going to practically working, right? So I understand my limitations here, right? So what I said, okay, I will do my best to be online when I'm taking a webinar, where I'm conducting, or when I'm participating, right? I mean, thanks to the huge rain and power cuts, that we all have ups and downs in our life, right? So now setting realistic goals is still under my control. But if I'm setting unrealistic goals and expecting myself to meet that, I'm sure it's a disastrous choice that I'm going to make on myself. And how I handle challenges is still under my control, right? So now I could have, cribbed about it. Oh my God, I didn't have the best network, or I just logged out of the meeting when people were there waiting for me. Then I would have forgotten what I was supposed to focus on. Agree? Yeah, rather than that, I took it cool. Yes, people understand because they're all going through the same scenario in their life, right? And I also accept my limitation that this is the max I can do today. So I can work on it in the future. But at this point of time, this is it. And I accept that. So then what happens? Things around me or how I handle the challenge becomes more easy for me. And I also navigate through these stressors very easily, right? And I also have a control on how I set my boundaries and where I put it and how other people value it depends on how much I value my boundary. I think that topic itself is a huge, you know, topic of discussion for some other day. However, understand that you set boundaries not only for other people but to your own self and be diligent about following them, right? So until unless you stick to your own boundary, nobody around you is going to respect that boundary. I think the commitment needs to be from your end so that other people commit to it, right? And how I spend my free time is something that is still under my control, right? So whether I want to do it, invest my free time in a productive way where it is going to be in a long term investment of self learning or upgrading my own skills, depends on me. Now I have no control on how other people invest their free time on. I think that's where we all get stressed. Oh my god, they have so much free time, they don't do this chore or they can't complete their work, or how they manage their cupboard, or how they manage their life. It might be your life partner, or it might be your kids, right? I mean, major of our stress comes from that. But then you have the power only how you spend your free time, not how they spend their free time. And then how I speak to myself is still under my control, but how other person speaks to me is not under my control. So when we understand what all things are under my control, I don't have to worry so much on what is not under my control. So then there's a lot more clarity in where my power is, where I have the choice to work on my own stressor. Because major of the time what I have seen is, what I've also experienced in my life is, I was constantly working on something that is not under my control. And it doesn't mean that I haven't put effort, I haven't put energy, I haven't put time behind it, but then the end result is still zero, which is one of the reason why we start losing confidence on our own self, or lose trust our own self, which is going to lead into a more sliding scale of stressors, right? I think I'm not going to talk about what is not under my control, because everything else that is not in my control is going to be out of my control, which can be a huge, list of itself, right? So now moving on to the next slide, this is where I want each one of us to focus. So things that worry and stress us is a huge percentage, but then things that actually can happen, because see, human beings are born with a superpower of imagination, right? But then how many of us are actually redirecting in a productive way, or in a helpful, or in a supportive way? I think here the we are all misusing the superpower that we are all blessed with, that is imagination, right? We are imagining to the ability that we all can do. So that is where our source of stress is. So here what you need to focus is on what ends up happening, rather than worrying it or things that can happen to me, right? So there's a small dot, I don't know if you can notice that there's a blue dot inside that slide, right? So that is where things end up happening. So just imagine you're just focusing on the blue area, then you are left with so much more life to live, because our time is nothing but our life itself, right? So I think valuing that makes a huge impact in each one of our life. So I think chance depends on the circumstances. So chance, do I have this chance? Depends on everything and out of my control. But then choice depends only on me. So I think the superpower is on focusing on the choice that you have, rather than oh, wish I have this chance or wish I have this opportunity. Because the major of the stress comes from the chance that we all want to take, right? However, when you shift your focus from chance to choice, then life becomes much more easier because there are things that are going to be under your control and there's going to be less easy. Thank you so much. I think that's what I wanted to present to you all. Hope it's all making sense, and I think we will open this for questions now.
Rashmi, why I have to take it up. While talking, I was thinking so many things about myself because many times I found myself worrying about things which are not in my control. I keep worrying about things which is irrelevant, but again getting into the same issues again and again. And many things you said also the commitment. If I take a pledge, like okay, I will work on it, I also have to be committed, right? Which is not happening. So maybe I also maybe talk to you later, but this is a very concise, precise session on a topic which is very relevant. Thank you so much for giving this inputs. Over to you, over to others. I'm so sorry, I just barged in.
Yeah, we are open to taking questions, or you can either post it on the chat or raise of hands. Yeah, I think Sharmila
Yeah.
has it.
So I'm a therapist myself, so I know how we can spend time with ourselves, but I still would like to have a window of information where what would you suggest? You said right. How do you manage stress? Is to spend more time with yourself, and how would that be from your perspective?
Thank you, Shamila madam, for the beautiful question, and thank you, Suja ma'am, for sharing your experiences as well. So, as rightly, discussed, spending time with myself is something that we all need to bring into our daily routine, which we don't see happen too often around us, right? So I know that there's a belief that if I am spending time with myself, it is called selfish also. Many times I'm sure as a therapist you have come across many people ask you that. I think with the decades and plus years of experience in the field, it's I think many of my hours of therapy goes into psychotherapy goes into educating them that it is not selfish to spend time with yourself. How I recommend people to spend time with themselves is journaling is something that can do a beautiful work, right? So you start jotting down your own thought process, because once you can manage your thought process or streamline your thought process in the right direction, then I think it's a beautiful life that you all will live, right? And the other thing that I would recommend people is keep moving, because motion in the body is something that will help you not only physically keep you fit, but also there is a lot of chemical balance that comes into your body in the form of dopamine, serotonin, endorphin, and you know uh, yeah, so these hormones really help you stay calmer and prepare you well to handle your stress. Okay. And the other thing, see, it's not really that you have to go to gym and lift 100 kg. No, I am, all my life I've not jumped into a gym at any given point in life. But then that doesn't mean that I don't respect the physical movement in your body, because the most of our stress comes when we are sitting idle doing nothing. Okay, see how each one of our body is built is to keep moving your body and staying or keeping your mind calm. But then we are all doing other way around. Then what happens? We are bound to be stressed. We are bound to be going through huge thought process or worries, concern, anxiety, irritability, upset, and the list goes on, because there's so much words that are added into dictionary which was not there in my own dictionary for many years ago, right? So now what is happening is give movement to your body, so then you let your mind stay calm, right? Because there's a lot more that needs to be balanced at your body, mind, and soul level. When I say soul journey or a spirituality, it is for me knowing yourself better. When you know yourself better, then you know what is under your control, what is not under your control. Without you knowing yourself, you're only trying to know you through others' words or others' statements or others' concerns, which is not a right thing to do. Right? So that is what I call holistic happy life. That is managing your body well, mind well, then you will truly know your self well. Otherwise, we are all living a facade life just to people please or to just get validation or to just get that sympathy or approval from people around, right? So that is the other thing that I practice. So invest more time on keeping your body moving. It is not about just 1 hour workout that we do through the day you do. So what simple strategy that I do is I focus on achieving 10,000 steps every day. So that constantly motivates me to get up from my chair or from my comfort zone. So which is not easy to achieve on a daily basis. Let me be honest. Even though I'm practicing this for almost 10 years now, I still find it hard to meet it on a daily basis. Right? So that is one way you can, push yourself out of your comfort zone. And the other thing that you can do is meditate. Meditate not just randomly when you're going through a depressed or crash landing thought process. No, it's not ideal to do meditation when you're already flooded with enough thoughts. So what you do, sweat your body, then you sit for meditation, which is going to help you keep your mind calm. Otherwise, we are giving more food for our mind to disaster, right? So again, physically active then switching to meditation would be an ideal if you are a beginner. Okay. And the other thing that you can do is you can sing whatever your hobbies are. You can sing, dance, art, color, paint, craft, whatever you like. I love playing with my kids. I think that is something that gives me the best, experience of, detaching or spending more time with yourself, because playing is something that constantly puts you through a new demands, right? So where you're learning it in a more fun way, so you have less to complete, right? So it is easy for you to learn as well as understand your children better and modulate their behavior as well. So that is something that I practice. And then walk in the nature. This is something that I love doing. After my busy work, I would just walk into the space. Of course, you might have a garden or you might have a plant or a tree, something which has greenery in it, and it is not artificial, very important, right? So where you just, because I've seen people say, oh, I will relax by watching a web series. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster again, because it's not really helping, because you're unnecessarily putting yourself through more stress rather than helping it. Okay, walk into the nature. It might be your garden. It might be just two plants that you've kept in your garden. Still good enough. Stare at it or touch it, talk to it. I think that's wonderful where you can stabilize your emotions. And if you have pets at home, there's nothing like it. Just cuddle and then they'll take care of everything for you. Right? They are the stress busters. If you have kids, all the more good. But then I don't know at what age group each one of them are, and it can be a stressor itself or it can be trigger itself, right? So you decide how it works. I think cuddling loved ones is something that I always strongly recommend people, which is easy to practice, right? You cuddle your life partner, you cuddle your kids, or you cuddle your pets, or you cuddle a tree. I promise this really works. If nothing, then hold on to your pillow. That's still good enough. If no pillow, still hug yourself in this way, and that can do a beautiful magic, right? So when you're hugging yourself, you have to use the affirmations, because I have written a beautiful book, 520 affirmations for daily holistic happy life, right? Where you can read through the affirmation, just open a page and then read whatever affirmation which will bring back your thought process into the streamline, right? So these are something. And then barefoot walking is something that I always enjoy, because there is a electrolytes, or there is a chemicals which I don't want to get into the deeper of it, but then it really helps by absorbing all the negative energy one carries if you're able to find a space where you can do a barefoot walking as well. And shall I go on? I know my time is exceeding, but then I can still go on. End of the day, it is not what it works. It is what you enjoy doing. I think that's the bottom line. See, for me, if you say, okay, play a music instrument, it might be a stress for me, right? Because I have zero skill when it comes to playing an instrument. But then you tell me, okay, you go talk to 100 people or thousands of them, I'm still happy. But then that itself can be a stress for someone else, right? So it's end of the day, bottom line is what you enjoy doing the most. Okay, so are you truly able to participate in what you are deciding or trying to spend time with yourself? Okay, if I'm choosing a activity because for someone else it is relaxing, then you might be putting yourself through a test of time to either enjoy it or break yourself. So it's up to you what you enjoy doing. I think that makes a whole shift, so that you will have a quality time, because when you're spending time with yours, the whole perspective of spending time with yourself is you start knowing yourself well. Otherwise, we all have 101 things to blame on as the reason for our stress. But then when I'm spending time with my own self and I'm not happy about at that point of time, then that's true me, not anybody else. So I think that realization really helps us. Yes, Janita. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just.
So much.
Okay.
Any more questions? Anybody?
Okay, hope it answered your question, Shamila ji.
Any more? Show of hands. We are exceeding our time limit here, so I can take one more question. Okay, I think nobody else. I have one question. You mentioned stress, which leads to anger and which goes all the way to depression. How do you pinpoint this, that it has reached this stage? Because many a time people miss it out and then it becomes really serious.
Okay. So I think that is where actually as a therapist I pitch in to the people, right? See, we have to invest more time in understanding their environment where they are living, to understand what is the stress, because many a times what really happens is that people don't even know that they have something like this, and that's the
Exactly.
reason they haven't dealt with it, right? So what really, especially in the corporate setup also, they keep brushing it away, saying that no, I'm managing it well, right? It can happen whether in a corporate setup or a home setup also. It's not that anybody is saved from stress, right? So what really happens is over a period of time it becomes a habit that, and I also start believing that this is me. Yeah. So to keep myself calm, I have to doing so many things. If I'm not doing it, then I'm becoming stressed, right? So here what really is a belief that I'm carrying is that for my stress or to stay myself calm, I have to do 100 things. But then the whole reason I'm getting stressed is because I'm trying to go everywhere. Yeah. So now I think understanding why I have got into the habit takes couple of hours of time and energy with that person. Then what happens? We will be able to identify stressors. So once we address that, then they start, oh my God, it is not me. Because we all love validation, right? Oh my God, she's doing so many things at ease. But then only that person know how much ease it is.
Exactly.
Okay, so why one person may choose to do it itself is because of the reason that we all love validation, we all love appreciation, we all love people valuing us. But then at what cost it is coming is the choice that we all have. So again, I go back to the slide that I showed. It's the choice that we all have power on.
Know yourself better.
Hope that answers your question, Janita.
Thank you. I think Suja, you can close.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi. It was an excellent session, like a very vast topic, put it in a very short period. I know that you can speak for hours, months, days about this specifically this particular subjects, your passion and commitment. And thank you so much, because some of the questions which are in my mind got answered. And definitely connect with you in between, because we are otherwise also connected. Keep doing the good work, and definitely it is impacting somebody or other on a daily basis. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Doctor.